This is a reading from Rays of the One Light, Weekly Commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita by Swami Ananda. Week 52, The Divine Ascension. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. In the Gospel of St. John, chapter 14, we read, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. What is this I when spoken by a master who has conquered every vestige of ego consciousness? Therein lies the mystery of true scriptural teachings. That I is no I. Does it even exist? In what way is it different from the consciousness that animates other human beings? Jesus was not saying, look at me, don't look at other masters. He was saying rather, look at the divine self that is the essence of who you are, your very self. You are that I. No man cometh unto the divine consciousness except by first recognizing his own intrinsic divinity, hidden behind his delusive ego. The Bhagavad Gita in the 4th chapter states, O son of Pritha, Arjuna, in whatever way people accept me, in that same way do I appear to them. For all men in some way pursue the path to me. Meditate on the divine incarnations, their lives, and the consciousness animating them will be your stairway to the infinite. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
Thank you, Shannon. I'd like to have a reading from Whispers from Eternity. And this is, come to me, O Christ, as the divine shepherd of souls. O Christ, thou rarest flower of hearts, thou didst sail the storm-tossed lake of prejudiced minds. Its evil-scented, gloomy thought waves lashed thy lily-tender soul. They crucified thee with their evil. Yet didst thou shed on them the aroma of goodness and forgiveness, and help them to be purified by remorse, to make them attractively sweet-scented with thine all-loving soul flower. O thou great lover of all error-torn brothers, an unseen monument of the mightiest miracle of love was established in every heart when the magic of thy voice uttered, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Thou hast healed the cataract of hatred. We have now grown to see thy truth. Love thine enemies as thyself, for they are thy brothers, though sick and sleeping. Thou hast taught us not to increase their fevered blows of hatred with the bludgeons of revenge. Thine undying sympathy has inspired us to heal our brothers suffering in their delirium of anger with the soothing salve of divine forgiveness. Thy crucifixion reminds us of the daily crucifixion of our own fortitude by trials, of our wisdom by ignorance, of our self-control by scathing touch of temptation, and of our love by misunderstanding. Thy test on the cross proved the victory of divine wisdom over ignorance, of thy divine soul over flesh, of thy happiness over pain, and of thy love over hatred. So are we heartened to bear our own crosses bravely and with faith. Teach us when we are crucified by harshness to pour our only sweetness, to bear with calmness the assaults of worry, and to give understanding unceasingly to those who unjustly hate us. O Shepherd of souls, wandering hearts are seeking of themselves the one fold of divine devotion. We have heard the ever-calling music of thy infinite kindness. Our one desire is to find our home in thee, to receive the cosmic Father with the joyous open eyes of wisdom, and to know that all of us are sons of our own one God. Teach us to conquer the Satan of dividing selfishness, which prevents the gathering of our brother souls into one fold of spirit, calling to one another by the watchword, love him who loves you, and love all who love you not. Let us rally beneath the canopy of the universal oneness of the Christ. Amen. So that was a little bit of a long reading, but since Christmas is around Christ, I thought that was kind of appropriate for us to listen to that. So, there are a number of things I'd like to share with you this morning. And one of them comes from Davy. Davy and Joe Tish are the masters, it's not the right word. They are the leaders of Ananda. So Davy wants to tell us how we can follow in the example of the masters. And these are a couple of hints that she gives us about meditation. First is to try to feel that you really have Christ consciousness. You know, we use that word a lot, we say it a lot, and it's a beautiful Christ consciousness, just that those two words put together are beautiful. But what Davy is saying is not just think of the words, not just hear them within, but really try to dive into that Christ consciousness. Really focus on what that is and in what ways you can follow that. In what ways can we be Christ-like? In what ways can we love our fellow members? And in what ways can we love those who love us not? Next thing she says to us is, after techniques, sit for a time and try to do a mental visualization of Christ consciousness. So many people, when they do meditation, they sit down, they get ready, they have the nice posture and everything, and they do the technique, and then the technique is over. And sometimes people don't know what to do after that. Okay, the technique is over, I guess I'm finished meditating, but that's not the way it is. After you finish the technique, feel that you are diving into a deeper place within yourself, into a place within that you can really unite yourself with Christ or Master, whatever divine being that you wish, Divine Mother. Okay? And also try to mentally visualize that person, Divine Mother, Christ, Master, one of the other masters. Not just saying the words to yourself, okay, so I did this. Forget about what you did. Be where you are when you're in meditation. And open the heart. And go into your heart and see, how can I expand this? How can I've gotten quiet. I've said some prayers. How can I be quietly expanding my consciousness? How can I be quietly communing with the divine? Something else that she suggests, that in metaphysical meditations, there are some visualizations. And this can be very helpful to some people. You can have a meditation that you read, but not just read it, but read it slowly and take the words in so that they're not something outside of you, but there's something inside of you. And that can be a very nice meditation, okay? And then try to feel in your meditations for the rest of the year that you already have Christ consciousness. You know, this word of Christ consciousness comes around very often at Christmas time because of the baby Christ and then following Christ as he grew. We don't have to wait for special occasions to visualize Christ consciousness, to feel him in our meditation. There's some ways that we can do that. One, of course, is if you have an altar. If you have an altar, especially if you're part of this path, it would be very nice to have a picture of each of the masters so that at any point when you're meditating, you can focus on whichever one is calling to you that day. But if you don't have, we have little plaques like this. They're plastic. And it has all the masters on it. So that's one way of having all the masters, or you could purchase pictures of the different masters. But when you're in meditation, really do tune in to one of the masters, to Christ, to Yogananda, maybe to Babaji, to Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswar. Really tune in. You might want to even think of yourself as, you know, perhaps you're going to church and you meet someone in the parking lot, and so you come in together. And so there's a kind of connection with each other, even though we're sitting, we might not even be sitting next to each other. Right now, we're not sitting next to each other. Each person is in their own place with Zoom. But that doesn't have to stop us from tuning into the masters, from tuning into each other. Okay? And there's something else here that she says. We're not limited by our own ego in that the Christ consciousness already dwells within us. We're not limited there. Masters come not to clean up our mud puddle, but to get us out of our mud. And so that's another reason for calling in the masters and letting them be with us. In the greater scheme of things, mankind is actually a higher order than angels, because only humanity seeks oneness with God. I never knew that. I never realized that. Okay. So, Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And he's not speaking of himself as a man, a regular man, but he's speaking of himself as the infinite Christ. And Christ's birthday symbolizes the birth of divine awareness. That divine awareness is within each one of us. At the first stirrings of that awareness, when you're first beginning to realize it, treat it with loving care and protection, as though it had the fragility of an infant. Something that Jesus said to his disciples is, be ever watchful. Protect your inner awareness of God's presence, lest you lose with it. So what does that mean? It means holding God, holding Jesus, holding Master, holding whatever is the divine one for you. And it can change on days. You don't have to use the same Master or the same being each day. It could be Divine Mother. Recognize that if we are uniting, if we are really bringing that personage, that divine one, into our hearts, we can have them with us all day long. And no matter what goes on, good things will happen. Oh, thank you, Master. That was wonderful. Someone just cut you off with a car. I seem to like to talk about cars when I'm doing meditation here. Someone seemed to cut you off with a car. It can be very frightening, but it could also be, Lord, please, thank you that you saved us from an accident, and bless that person that they may not get into an accident themselves with someone else. I mean, we have We have the ability all day long to be communing with the divine on every level. What should I eat for dinner tonight? And you go into the grocery store and you see lots of goodies, but you could ask the divine, ask Master, ask Divine Mother. So what do you think, Divine Mother? What's good for dinner tonight? What I'm trying to convey to you is that just as many of us live with another person or a couple of other people in the house, and we're interacting with them all the time. I mean, sometimes we'll go off in our own room for a while and be quiet, but otherwise, we're constantly interacting. We're interacting with people in our houses, in our place of work, in the grocery store, everywhere. So why not be interacting with an aspect of the divine every day? Every day, every moment. Now that's a little bit hard to do every single moment. Of course, the mind wanders from time to time. But if you begin to take that practice of really thinking about God, thinking about one of the masters, thinking about your guardian angel, you know, the more you do that, the more you will feel their presence around you, and the more you'll have that communication, that ongoing communication going on with you. And if you're very fortunate to have a partner who is also on this path, or to have a friend who is also on this path, or even have a friend who may not be on this path, but is on a spiritual path. It's really nice to reawaken that with the two of you. And you'd have to be delicate about how you do it, depending on who you're speaking with. But you could just be riding along and saying, you know what, I just saw that over there, whatever that may be. And it reminded me, okay, I'll give you an example. I just saw those children over there playing with that person, playing with that mother, or playing with that father. And it reminded me of how much Christ loved children and how much he drew the children to him. Just a simple little thing like that. When you're out in the world, see what you're seeing. And if something bad is happening, that's really a time to pray, really a time to pray. Talk to one of the masters, talk to Divine Mother. Send some blessings over there. But at other times, when you're with someone, if God comes into your mind, if it comes in, and the more you practice this, the more it will come in. When it comes in, let it be shared. It doesn't have to just be yours. Let it be shared. Oh, you know, I just had this thought about God. And so I just wanted to tell you, do you ever get thoughts about God? It could bring up a whole new conversation with someone. And so we ask this question, what does it mean to be one with God? The inner qualities of a true master are omniscience, that means all-knowing, omnipresent of consciousness, that means being aware of everything that's going on around us. Another one is absolute love. Wouldn't that be wonderful if we could really develop absolute love? Won't happen in a day, it might not happen in a year, but the more we practice it, the more we're bringing that into our hearts, sharing it with others, and receiving it from the divine, because where does that love come from, if not from the divine? Compassion and forgiveness are very important qualities also. And freedom from sorrow and all negative qualities like egotism or attachment, jealousy, desire, and hate. These are things that we want to try to avoid, but it's not avoiding by saying, well, that didn't happen. We avoid it by taking it in for a moment and saying, Lord, this isn't what I want. Help me to stay away from it. Help me to remove that kind of action, that mental action within me. only desire to obey God's will and to help others to find the divine truth. There's this beautiful line from Festival of Light, which we'll hear later again. But it says was, but I'm going to use is. Ours is a holy mission. And now we're talking to God. You charge us to learn great lessons from life, to be fruitful in the gifts you have given me, to expand and multiply them. Remember that as you go along. We all have a holy mission. We are being charged to learn great lessons. And not only to learn those great lessons, but to share them with others, to expand and multiply them. And this is one last saying. This is from Sri Ramakrishna. I love this. Your duty as devotees is to fall down and worship where others only bow. God bless you.